Good morning to all. I take the pleasure to welcome you all to yet another episode of the Sunday special 60 Minutes with Psychiatry Teachers, which is a combined effort of the IPS Teachers of Psychiatry Forum, IPS UG Education Subcommittee, and IPS PG Education Subcommittee. This unique initiative is supported by Minds Trust in the past several months has become a well-known and recognized pan-India platform for various stakeholders involved in training and teaching of psychiatry to share their experiences and further improve the quality of medical education in this country. This episode is part of this new series wherein we get to meet and interact with the Must Enrich research grantees and their mentors as well. IToP Must Enrich Research Grant for Psychiatric Teachers is an initiative of the Minds United for Health Sciences and Humanity Trust and Indian Teachers of Psychiatry, which we call IToP, and is funded by the Infosys Foundation. Every year, more than 1 lakh MBBS students are being produced by our country, and more than 1,000 psychiatry postgraduates are being produced. The responsibility to produce quality doctors has never been greater. There is scarce Indian data on teaching and learning methods, and research this must in this research grant aims to add evidence to this Indian data on teaching and learning methods, especially for the benefit of psychiatry education.
Dr. Raviteja, your audio is, I don't know if it's me or if it's you, but your audio is poor.
It's not clear, Dr. Raviteja.
Yes.
Maybe the network bandwidth is less. It's okay. Just try it one. Try it once more.
Extremely sorry for the disturbance, sir. Sir, I hope we'll be able to cut out this part before it goes live
Yeah,
stream.
we can. It's clear now.
Great,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah.
I'll do the introduction once again with great pleasure. Good morning once again to all of you. I take the pleasure to welcome you all yet to another episode of the Sunday special 60 Minutes with Psychiatry Teachers, which is a combined effort of IPS teachers of Psychiatry Forum, IPS UG Education Subcommittee, and IPS PG Education Subcommittee. This unique initiative is supported by Minds United Trust and in the past several months has become a well-known and recognized pan-India platform for various stakeholders involved in training and teaching of psychiatry to share their experiences and further improve the quality of medical education in this country. As people who have joined and watching are well aware that this episode is part of this ongoing series wherein we get to meet and interact with the Must Enrich research grantees and their mentors as well. To speak a little about IToP and its Must Enrich research grants. This is an initiative of the Minds United for Health Sciences and Humanity Trust and Indian Teachers of Psychiatry. It is funded by the Infosys Foundation. Every year, more than 1 lakh MBBS students are being produced, and more than 1,000 psychiatry postgraduates are being produced in India. The responsibility to produce quality doctors has never been greater on us. However, there is scarce Indian data on teaching and learning methods. Original research through these must enrich research grants aim to add evidence to Indian data on teaching and learning methods, especially for the benefit of psychiatry education in India. With great pleasure, I introduce you to today's speakers. And the topic is going to be on online modular teaching to promote self-directed learning among second-year undergraduate medical students. Talking about this and giving us the findings of her study, which was supported by Must Enrich Research Grant, is Dr. Vasantmeghna Murthy, Associate Professor of Psychiatry at the Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences of the Krishna Vishwavidyapeeth, Karad, Maharashtra. Madam calls herself as a self-taught, self-directed learner, being very humble, always positive, and spreading smiles. Guiding her and mentoring her on this topic is Dr. Arun M, another well-known figure who ever know about the activities being done by the Minds Trust United, Mysore. Sir is a professor of forensic medicine and coordinator of medical education unit at JSS Medical College, affiliated to JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research, deemed to be university at Mysuru, Karnataka. Sir did his MBBS graduation from the University of Mysore in 1996 and his MD in forensic medicine from the famous Kasturba Medical College, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Manipal, Karnataka in 2002. Dr. Arun has additional qualifications of DNB in forensic medicine from the National Board of Examination, New Delhi in 2003, and also has done his advanced course in medical education from the MCI, now NMC, through the Nodal Center of St. John's Medical College, Bengaluru in 2015, and also the FIMER Fellowship, which is the Foundation for Advancement of International Medical Education and Research from the FIMER Philadelphia through the FIMER Regional Institute, PSG Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu in 2019. He has an experience of teaching forensic medicine and a passionate medical educator since the last 27 years. His areas of interest in forensic medicine is forensic traumatology and forensic psychiatry. His areas of interest in medical education is self-directed learning and assessments and evaluation. With these opening remarks, I hand over the proceedings to Dr. Vasantmeghna Murthy and excited to hear about ma'am's findings on her study.
Thank you, Dr. Raviteja. At the outset, I'll just stop my video because my bandwidth again might not support streaming. So I'll stop my video and I'll just be on audio.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So
it's clear, ma'am. You can begin the slide.
Yeah. I'm really happy that I have an opportunity to share my study findings from the project that I did with the Must Enrich grant today. It was suddenly put on me to come up with a concept paper, and I had no experience in medical education research, so I did whatever I could. Like conception to delivery of the concept paper happened within 24 hours. So in hindsight, I'm sure I could have done much better, but this is still a learning opportunity. So my topic was online modular teaching to promote self-directed learning among phase 2 medical students, and I did it under the guidance of Dr. Arun Ram in 2021. So in 2021, the students had just started coming back to the university for contact sessions. So in-person classes had just started. For the most part, prior to that, everything was happening online. In the CBME, self-directed learning has been given a lot of weightage and a lot of value, and it makes sense because although all of us have been engaging in some form of self-directed learning, we've never probably had a structured teaching learning of how to do it efficiently. So I think the NMC recognizes that the students need to be taught how to be efficient self-directed learners, and that's the reason why SDL has got a special place in the curriculum. And being in current times, internet-based resources are our most important means of learning. So we hardly really go into the library and pick up textbooks or physical journals. Everything is available online, and we have a lot of soft copies. So internet-based resources are going to stay for a long time, and students need to be well versed on how to use these resources effectively. The thing with self-directed learning is problem-based learning, case-based learning, and other small group teaching methods are the key ways in which SDL skills can be enhanced. But and for some reason, online classes have created a negative connotation that you cannot promote self-directedness in an online mode. So I wanted to challenge that particular notion. We need self-directed learning skills to be taught in a scaffolding manner where the teacher acts as a facilitator and helps the student develop their SDL skills. So using MOOCs is a good way to develop these skills, and I wanted to test this through my project. Around that time, I was also undergoing a lot of various trainings via or through online MOOCs myself, and that's how I sort of zoned into this particular topic. So the aim of my study was to examine the effect of online teaching of psychopharmacology in phase 2 medical students, and they examine the effect on their self-directed learning. And the objectives were to determine the effects of this online teaching learning of psychopharmacology on the student self-reported self-directed learning, and to examine association between the SDL scores and specific socio-demographic variables. So this was a single group before after experimental study. I conducted it over 10 weeks. It was done at my institute, KIMS Karad, and the sampling was convenience and voluntary. Now, assuming an increase in self-directedness scores following intervention of about 30 plus minus 20, we arrived at a sample size requirement of at least 21 participants. The competency I chose was PH 1.19 from pharmacology, which is describe the mechanisms of action, types, doses, side effects, indications, and contraindications of drugs which act on CNS, including anxiolytics, sedative, hypnotics, and so on. It is a knowledge domain, knows how level, and it is a core topic. And the recommendation by the NMC was lecture based. And here the modification I did was an online modular teaching learning. So the intervention that I designed was a 6-unit module, which I created. Each unit consisted of specific learning objectives for the particular topic. There was a clinical case scenario for set induction and for providing context to learning, video lectures that I recorded myself, and a list of recommended readings, books, reference materials, interesting animations and videos were also provided. And at the end of each unit, there was a self-assessment quiz that the students could access any number of times that they wish to. So this is an outline of each unit. The first unit was Introduction to Neurotransmitters and their function. The second was on the treatment of depressive disorders, psychotic disorders, mania bipolar disorder, sedative hypnotics, and the pharmacological basis of cognitive enhancers. These are the major classes of drugs that in psychiatry that students are expected to know. So this is a layout of how my Google Classroom looked. So each unit had its learning objectives and video lectures, as you can see here. Video lectures were divided into parts to make it less, heavy on the students. So maybe around 10 to 15 minute unit lectures were created. I gave a case scenario to begin the entire learning exercise for them. I provided multiple resources to the students so that they could access whatever it is they wished to access. And there was the self-assessment quiz in the form of through Google Forms. The tool that I used for assessing the self-directed learning was SRSSDL by Swapna Williamson, which is a self-rating scale for self-directed learning. She kindly permitted me to use this tool for my project. And I used a semi-structured questionnaire to obtain other relevant data. And paired and unpaired t-tests were mainly used for statistical analysis. So at the outset, I took a sensitization lecture. At the end of a pharmacology lecture, I took 10 minutes to sensitize the students in the class about my project and what I was doing. I shared the consent forms and the social demographic data forms and the SRSSDL via Google Forms with the students. 92 students registered to participate in the study. However, only 66 actually joined the classroom. After joining the classroom, only 22 students actually completed the study, and I will henceforth call them the compliant group. At the end, the compliant group had to fill out the post-test SRSSBL as well as provide feedback via Google Forms. Now, here we note the attrition rate was very high, almost 76%, and there are many reasons for this, primarily because the students were in the midst of certain exams and cultural activities. So, for some reason, psychiatry took a back seat for them during this period. So, the attrition rate was really high. Now the results, the gender distribution of the compliant group was 7 males and 15 females. Overall, at entry, we had 92 students who registered and filled out the SRSSBL. Their mean self-directedness score was 231.8, which by the scoring chart given by Swapna Williamson comes as high. So they all rated themselves as highly self-directed at entry itself. Among the compliant group, the mean score before the intervention was 231.3 plus minus 26.6, and after the intervention was 227.3. So both the means are still in the highly self-directed range. There was no significant increase in self-directedness post-intervention, and instead a 4-point decrease was noted in the mean scores that came up. The number of assignments that were turned in by the compliant group was 17 out of a maximum possible of 132. So 6 units, 22 participants who completed should have received 132 completed assignments. However, we received only 17. So what we note is before and after the online modular intervention, the self-directed learning scores did not really change significantly, neither in the total scores nor in the domain scores. The domains of SRSSDL are awareness. So the questions are more about how aware students are regarding aspects and attributes of self-directedness, learning strategies, how much they are comfortable with various learning strategies, what are the learning activities that students themselves engage in, what are the evaluation methods, self-evaluation methods that they use, and what are the interpersonal skills. So nowhere did we find any significant change in self-directedness over there. But one place where I did find a small little surprise was that we had 15 students who were from state board and 7 who were from other boards, that was CBSE, ICC, and IB. And the average SRSSDL scores from the state board students was quite low, significantly low compared to those from other boards. So 223.4 was the mean score for the state board students, and those who had come from other boards for grade 12, their score was 241.9. And even among the domains, the learning strategy and interpersonal skills domain was where the difference was more significant. So here is something that we can think about, that students who are coming from state board are probably not getting adequate exposure to unique learning strategies such as role plays, simulations, group study, peer study. All of these things might be focused a lot more in the other advanced boards like CBSE, ICSE. Maybe that's the reason why they rated themselves lower in the learning strategy domain. And in the interpersonal skills domain also, if we have a look at the tool which is available online, in the interpersonal skills, there are questions such as, I'm able to identify my role within a group. My interaction with others helps me to develop insight and plan for further learning. I have good relations with others. I am good at communicating verbally. I can express myself effectively in writing. So again, all of these things are possibly opportunities that students from CBSE, ICSE, and IB boards get much more than the state board students. So again, maybe reflecting their exposure to these kinds of learning interventions and strategies in their 11th standard and 12th standard might be reflecting over here. So coming to discussion, as it is at the entry point itself, all the students had rated themselves as highly self-directed at the beginning. So there was very little scope for a significant change in scores in the time frame that was given. But then there is an interesting study that was done by Prem Kumar K and colleagues at CMC Vellore. And over there, this was a cross-sectional study, although from the table it looks as though it was a follow-up study. So at one particular point in time, the authors applied a self-directed learning scale, a different scale, a very popular scale by Guglielmino called the self-directed learning readiness scale. They applied it at on admission, students who just got admitted to the MBBS course, students who were at the end of first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and the beginning of internship. And what they noted was those who had just taken admission into the course rated themselves as above average in self-directed learning readiness. So 228.81 was the mean score of that group, 95 students. But as the years, the students from other years were filling out the forms, it turns out that they all started having average scores. So at entry, self-directedness was very high, but as the course went on, the self-directedness scores seemed to come down quite a bit. So the authors were discussing about what are the various factors that could be influencing this kind of degradation of self-directed learning in their study. And many factors came up, such as culture, the curriculum itself. If it's a problem-based curriculum, self-directedness increases, and so on. So this was an interesting study that I found. One important thing is during my own study of self-directed learning, what I learned is I used to use self-regulated and self-directed learning interchangeably, but it turns out that self-regulated learning is a component of self-directed learning. In SRL, the teacher actually provides learning goals, learning objectives, and is there to support the student. Whereas in true self-directed learning, the learning goals are set by the students themselves. So actually, in essence, whatever SDL activities we are doing with the MBBS students during the training period are self-regulated learning. So we are, and through multiple opportunities to exercise self-regulated learning, we hope that they become self-directed learners in the long run. The need for scaffolding again is very important. We have to facilitate the process of self-directed learning very well. And Garrison's framework of SDL talks about SDL being, three various domains interacting with each other. One is student motivation, self-monitoring, and self-management. And there was an interesting study by Meena Zhu in which uh, she noted that self-management. So what she did was she interviewed several MOOC instructors as well as MOOC participants and tried to examine how the MOOC instructors help scaffold self-directed learning in their MOOC platforms. And what she found was the major thrust was on self-management. So things like enacting their learning goals, time management. So when the student has to study, how much they have to study, how long they have to study, and MOOC supported it by setting weekly goals for those students. Resource and support management. So providing the material resources, having discussion forums, providing opportunities to interact with the learners through office hours and meetings were ways in which the MOOC instructors were facilitating self-directed learning through the self-management domain. And navigation also, for helping the students navigate the MOOC using video tutorials and also FAQ sections. So according to Meena Zhu, self-management is an area of self-directed learning where MOOCs can help in developing self-directed learning among the students. So in that same Meena Zhu's article, she had this table, and I have just underlined the aspects that I could provide in my Google Classroom. I could provide discussion questions, although engagement was very poor. I could provide clear learning objectives, a time frame. I set clear expectations from the students. There was flexibility in when they viewed the lectures, when they did their assignments, how many times they did whatever it is that they were doing over there. The learning units were also short, approximately 10 to 15 minutes, maybe one or two lectures which were going up to 20 minutes, but otherwise everything was short learning units. There was a lot of flexibility in learning resources. I provided videos, I provided images, I provided textual material. So for all the various learning styles that the students might be having, there was something available. and there was clear organization. So students at the entry, at the introduction sensitization lecture itself, I showed them how the modules will be and how to navigate Google Classroom. And additionally, once enrolled in the Google Classroom, there was a document which I provided to the students so they could know how to navigate the Google Classroom. So what I felt was Google Classroom was very less engaging and the format was not very interesting. I myself did not know about open source LMSs, and whatever was available uh, was something that had to be launched on our institute server. So there was a lot of coordination that was required and time was less. So I decided to go for Google Classroom because we had an institute Google account. But I think if I'm doing it again, so I am doing another project now and I'm using Canvas for it instead of Google Classroom. The online modules are a great way to align and integrate psychiatry and psychopharmacology or any curricula. Alignment and integration can be done even in online modes, and it adds variety to the self-directed learning session. So instead of SDL sessions always being problem-based and a small group session, giving this as a additional variety is good to keep the students' interest. It's also very resource friendly because once you make the modules, you don't really have to do much other than just intermittently update some information that may have changed, etc. And of course, it gives you time to interact with your students. So if you're going to have virtual office hours in your Google Classroom or your MOOC setup, then you invest more energy and time in those things, and you keep using this MOOC for each year as it goes along. The feedback from the students was very positive. All the 22 students who completed it, they really felt that the experience was good. They felt the case discussion was useful, and the resources were great and was an efficient way of learning. There were one or two responses where they felt it was not a very useful way, but it reflected their discomfort with use of the online platform of learning. So maybe teaching them again these ventures, these methods can help them become more familiar with online learning, which is anyway going to happen in the future. One important thing about online learning that I would like to say towards the end of my presentation is the community of inquiry framework is a very important element of the educational experience. And in my Google Classroom, there was good cognitive presence. I tried to have a teaching presence through the videos as well as through asking questions in the stream. But the social presence was not very good. There was not much learner-learner interaction. In fact, there was no learner-to-learner interaction, and there was no extra learner-to teacher interaction either. So maybe in the future, I would like to have office hours or virtual meetings where I could interact better with the students. Now, among the limitations, they were already highly self-directed, but that means our work is easy. So we don't have to now do the groundwork is already done. Most of the students were already having the ability to be self-directed. Now it's about shaping and molding their self-directedness. So I see this less as a limitation, more as a strength of my study. The measure was subjective. There was no real objective way to see whether the student is actually self-directed or not. The low student engagement, again, time constraints, like I said, students had many things going on. And one thing that I really wish I could have done was integrate this module with the pharmacology CNS session. But the problem was pharmacology had planned their CNS topic towards the end of phase 2, and I could not wait that much time. I was time bound with the project. So otherwise, I think I would have had greater student engagement and lower attrition rates and better results if I had actually integrated with them. Again, like I said, social presence and teaching presence was inadequate, and there was no office hours and peer assessments were not there. These are some of the limitations, but there are advantages everywhere. It was flexible. Now this Google Classroom is available for me to use, and I keep letting second year students and third year students know that there is a Google Classroom, and students do enroll. It can be reviewed multiple times, so the teacher effort also reduces quite a lot. There is a lot of scope for learning for mastery. Students can repeatedly review materials and assess themselves. Exposure to LMS, like I said, is very good teaching learning experience for both them as well as us. And because we know that professional upkeep requires that we are good with using the internet. So I think these are the major advantages of my study. The take home message at the end of it is that we can actually use online teaching platforms to help support the transition of our students from being dependent to self-directed learners. Although I do not like Google Classroom, I will not use Google Classroom anymore. but I still think it is feasible where other options are not available. I'd like to thank Dr. Arun Mohan Ram, my guide, IToP, Minds United, as well as Infosys Foundation for supporting me in my study. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, that
So
was
mute. Yeah.
truly amazing. In fact, you kept us completely engaged, and we noticed that take-home messages went far beyond the objectives of the study itself. I could not
Yeah.
help think of many things that we have been witnessing, especially over the course of the pandemic and after the pandemic. I was remembering how platforms like Byju's made such huge surges during the pandemic, and post-pandemic, we saw the companies plummet. We saw how augmented learning became mainstream, and many of our teachers, our colleagues, were using these courses online, making courses online, and earning, having a side hustle. We
Yes.
also saw organizations like TIPS. We saw how Nimhans was doing a great job through VKN, especially during the pandemic. But somehow we all know that this impact could not be generalized to the entire population. Now suddenly your study is giving us inputs or insights into what kind of population we could target, who will actually benefit, how their earlier earning methods, how their earlier boards of study, how their life skills in their early childhood and classroom and college could be interfering and should be focused while designing these modules for them. I couldn't also help think of my colleague at IIM who gets an entertainment fund. So he gets funds for subscribing to Netflix, Amazon Prime, because it's a part of this curriculum to stay up to date with the mass media and communication. He teaches mass media for IIM. So I was thinking maybe we should also be, benefited with getting funds for Canva and helping teachers like you and Mindstress design these modules for these young learners. Thank you so much for that presentation, ma'am. We are very excited to hear what Dr. Arun has to say, his experiences and his insights for our audience. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hitesh, and I congratulate Dr. Murthy for having done this project and bringing it to us. Actually, I was kept posted with her project right from it got conceptualized. And I maybe I could not take active part because some of the psychiatry related issues I was not able to. But let me just put the things which will favor self-directed learning, which Dr. Murthy has taken in this in her project. First one is she has attempted the choosing the domain. It is said the self-directed learning will be more successful to begin with, as now she has also found that in her participants, those who are from state board who constituted more could not do to a larger extent compared to those from CBSE and other boards. So the first principle of self-directed learning, which she has incorporated here, is the choosing of domain, the topic. She has taken the topic from the knowledge domain and the core area. So this has to be the first components which she has done. The next one is she has attempted to have a collaboration, psychiatry collaborated with pharmacology. Two objectives are met here. One, as we all know, the CBME is encouraging more for integration. It says throughout MBBS program, it must be like horizontal alignment and vertical integration. Both must be happening. So she has taken that psychopharmacology and competencies taken from pharmacology and psychiatry. So these are the foundation blocks which could make the self-directed learning more strong that she has done. And next one is she has done the modules. See, this small, as it is said, every brick will make the building. This modules has really given it a very clear shape as to each module has this many things to be acquired, and with the assessment part. And assessment, Dr. Murthy has done with MCQs. And in self-directed learning, there is little more scope to go beyond MCQs also, because here the students are maybe they're made to problem scenario. So usually what advised, and it is also proved effective, is have a reflection, and if we make them to write a brief reflective writing, so that will also strengthen the overall outcome. So that is for a assessment component. And after that, another component which she told us was the uh, platform. So here most of the thing was on virtual platform. So we could also plan it in a hybrid mode, because when she did it, it was more of just a transition from COVID was just over and it was coming back to normalcy. So it is always, we all believe as teachers, the physical, as she put in her end slides, the office hours. So she has taken care of that also. So if we make it a hybrid form, that will also go a long way in making it more strong and more effective. And of course, the attrition, it is said, if we see the GMER, Graduate Medical Education Regulations, that also ask us to do self-directed learning in a phased manner, because we can't be bringing self-directed learning of 50% here. So the first attempt will be to make it maybe 15%, 20% like that. So with that, gradually we may foresee that the attrition rate will reduce, and lesser the attrition rate, more effective will be the outcome of the self-directed learning. So those are my observations with respect to the project which she presented. And something, a couple of more points with SDL is, it is said that in present times, maybe most of you are aware, it is said the self-directed learning, because I was seeing in the chat box, there was one question. If you put videos and give resources to the students beforehand, could it still be called as self-directed learning? That's what I saw a question in the chat box. It is indeed, it is self-directed learning then also. Self-directed learning doesn't say to leave the students all for themselves and read. It is like handholding has to be there. That's why it is also nowadays, maybe a lot of things just go on changing in medical education. It is a directed self-learning these days. Directed self-learning, where the student is directed to self-learn by providing the resources. At the end of the day, everything might look same, but this is a sort of putting it in a different way. Self-directed learning. Some have this school of thought that it should be better called as directed self-learning, because we are giving them resources, we are handholding them, not leaving them all for themselves. And postgraduate training is self-directed learning. That is true. But for undergraduates, self-directed learning happens with a lot of handholding. So maybe I made an attempt to answer that question that was put on a chat box. With this, I am very glad to see Dr. Murthy has incorporated most of the components of self-directed learning in a project. And maybe I apologize, I could not involve myself in the way I should have, because of a lot of other commitments, which are not excuse again. But I really compliment her, congratulate her for having done this. It has come up very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You don't have to apologize.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that feedback and beautiful insights, sir. I hope Dr. Hitesh got his answer. Dr. Hitesh
He's
also.
asked one question. He wants to know some resources. Dr. Hitesh, can you just clarify what do you mean by online resources? What do you want? I'll share that with you.
Okay, what I mean to by online resources is that okay, different kinds of website. I know that there is one particular website which the students are using very often, that is a PubMed. But are there any other kinds
Okay.
of online resources available for the purpose of
Yeah.
self-learning in the medical curriculum? Thank you.
Yes, yes, there are. Maybe I'll do one thing. I'll share it on WhatsApp or something because sharing here might be a bit cumbersome. There is one called Meded portal, which gives a lot of information, and there is one specific website that I often send students to use. I forgot its name. Directors of Education and Science, ADMSEP. I'll just type that out for you. It's ADMSEP. It has online modules where you can just, you know, they're called e-modules, CSI e-modules, which students can be referred to, and they are short modules which the students can use. PubMed, like you said, is one thing. A lot of YouTube channels are there where very good animations, very good explanations are provided. One for psychiatry that I do like to watch is Dr. Sanil Rege's YouTube channel, and he provides very good videos on a lot of aspects of psychiatry. So I'll share some more on WhatsApp if possible, so that you can then use those in your teaching sessions.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Dr. Hitesh also made a comment saying that probably as we learn, our need for learning becomes easier and lesser, never zero. This may also be a reason for decrease in C scores as the students go higher in the course.
Yeah.
Please feel free to share your email ID so that I can pass it on to Dr. Murthy, and maybe you could get a link to any of these material that Madam has used. Also, it would be a good opportunity to present a lot of work that Mindstress has been doing. This includes not only in terms of skills required to be able to complete the MBBS course successfully, also psychiatry education for MBBS students. They also come out with Mind's newsletter, wherein you have the newsletter dedicated to MBBS students with a lot of people from other branches also writing, and psychiatrists taking care of the resource material. Tips, wiki, and all, these are other interesting on-the-go material, as well as they have a lot of books, as well as the Telegram groups that keeps on giving them activities and a series of lectures, both on YouTube as well as on Telegram. Any other questions? I see that a lot of our seniors have also joined us on this Sunday. It would be great if they would like to comment on the study or give us some valuable insights.
Well, while they're thinking about what they want to ask, I just wanted to say since the project, I realized where my own deficiencies are in creating online modules. And I took up a course on Swayam on creating learner-centric MOOC, which sort of helped me improve and understand how to create a MOOC. Now I'm using that knowledge to create a new MOOC on patient safety as part of my ACME project. So I'm actually, I think, stuck with online learning. I'm not leaving it. So it has been a good learning experience for me because these are all areas of my personal interest. I really enjoy all of these things, and I do a lot of online courses myself. So now I'm doing patient safety. I'm creating a module, but this I'm doing it on Canvas. Like I said, Google Classroom is a no-no now. Anyway, thank you.
Really great, ma'am. You are definitely a great self-directed learner yourself.
Thank you.
Mohan Isaac, sir, welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us today. Please, sir, would be lovely to hear
Yeah,
you.
just a few comments. Thank you very much, Vasantmeghna, for a good presentation. Very interesting study and very good insights. I know that she did mention that she does a lot of online learning and she is herself a self-directed learner. When she mentioned about Sanil Rege, I don't know if she personally
Yes.
knows Sanil Rege or she has come across his videos online only. Do you know
YouTube
Sanil Regan?
only. No,
Okay.
no, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay.
But you
Anyway,
must be knowing him because of Australia.
that is absolutely correct. I know him from the time he was a very young postgraduate, I mean, the consultant in psychiatry. His passion was training people. He thought that the teaching of psychiatry in Australia is not good enough, and he wanted to give up completely clinical work and do this kind of. Of course, he has his own method of developing things and his site, and I think Psych Scene or something like that it is called.
The Psych
But
Scene
I'm
Hub,
glad
he
to
has
know.
changed the name.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I have known him personally. I also keep meeting him here and there. He is involved. But I never knew that his reach had gone beyond Australia. That now I hear somebody from our group, the IToP group of scholars and must enrich grantees, etc., talking about it, which is good. Which only shows that you are a self-directed learner. You keep through all these online things yourself, and as you have said, although you have learned certain things and there is no Google classroom for you, but the potentials of some of these things you have highlighted from your study. Uh, this is, of course, now post-COVID. During COVID, a lot of things occurred online. I think some of it was mentioned earlier. But I remember going through a paper pre-COVID. It was in the BMC Medical Education, and it is a group of people. I do not know any of them, but the authors are all from CMC Vellore. It's a little piece of work they have done about self-directed learning. Self-directed learning, I mean, even now it is sort of new. We are now coming to terms with all these new things which the NMC, the National Medical Council, wants us to do. The different curriculum and the different kinds of in problem learner-centered learning, etc. But this paper was published in 2016 or 17 or around that time. At that time, there was no COVID. But in India, I think the medical council was only early talking about. But anyway, this group of people did uh, some work, and it is quite an interesting work. And only in institutions such as CMC Vellore, I guess they can do this work. They used a readiness, self-directed learner readiness scale, which was, of course, developed somewhere else. Uh, they use this scale on a cohort of students longitudinally. When they all entered medical school, at the end of first year, at the end of second year, at the end of third year, at the end of, I think, 6 or 7 readings, and at the beginning of internship. Very interesting findings, but one of the things I very distinctly remember is the self-directed learning score, which is what you get from this scale, steadily declined, which means that the medical student, when he joins, I mean, I'm talking about 2016 or 17 when they did this work or published. So the students may have joined in 2013 or 14 or so. So at the time of joining, they are all very enthusiastic. I mean, at least on a scale, whether they had great interest in self-learning, self-directed learning, I don't know. But on a scale which was used to measure, they all scored high. And steadily, the self-directed learning score declined first year, second year, third year, etc. Now, this is not what, at least now, the medical council wants our medical graduates to be. We are supposed to make our medical graduates. In fact, one of the 6 things, the goals of Indian medical graduate, which is actually not copied, adapted from the CanMed, the Canadian medical graduate, is to make him a lifelong learner. Now, lifelong learner, till you are in the medical school and in the postgraduate training, of course, there are compulsions, you have to pass exam, etc. But how will you become a lifelong learner if you stop self-directed learning after some time? So, as Raviteja mentioned, Vasantmeghna is already an example of a lifelong learner because she is learning, she is listening to Sunil Rige's online thing. She herself is developing her online programs, etc. So the challenge is, these students' self-directed learning skills have to be sort of built over a period of time. And that is why I would also highlight the point which Arun mentioned, that self-directed learning, at least in our setting, doesn't mean that, okay, they will all learn now. They are all, we are following the self-directed learning, learning-centered learning and all that. There has to be a handholding. And I believe that the self-directed learning skills have to be sort of, you will have to sensitize all young medical graduates about the concept, etc., etc., and help them to build their skills so that they become lifelong learners. Now, this is, of course, an example of using the online mode. Can, Google Classroom and all help the transition of people from the old method of learning to transform to the self-directed learning. So some findings are there, but there's a lot of learning also. We need to do a lot more. And self-directed learning is something, I think there is a lot of role for faculty development. That is how this IToP was formed and which is going on, etc., etc. Uh, Although, many of our actual Sunday specials are not widely attended physically, because Sunday mornings are very important for everybody. But Kishore told me that there are a lot of people who access it online from the IToP website. And he sent me also some, because thinking that I was very pessimistic. What is this? You hold these programs, Vasantmeghna comes, Raviteja takes a lot of interest and nobody ever attends. So he sent me data about how many people have been accessing some of these things. These are recorded. And I do hope that all these things are used by people again and again. Also to enhance their own self-directed learning. Now, I don't have to say anything much about the study itself. It's a well-conducted study. Vasantmeghna has discussed it very well, presented the findings. The findings are somewhat expected and no great surprises. But the learning for me from this is that self-directed learning, at least for the Indian medical graduates, is a work in progress. We have to help the students to become aware of it, help them to build these skills, and also faculty development programs where you talk about self-directed learning, because it's a completely different kind of concept. And that is why the transition will take some more time. Anyway, these are my comments, and thank you very much, Vasantmeghna, for this presentation and for your study. One question, have you published this, or are you in the process of publishing it or writing it up?
I did try to publish it, but everyone wants significant findings. So it got rejected. I got demotivated and I kept it aside. Now, maybe if my energy levels rise, I might try.
Okay. Now, 2 or 3 points on this I want to set. I think even if you are a Nobel Prize winning medical scientist and you wrote a paper, the referees do it blindly. They may not know that you have won the Nobel Prize. So getting a rejection is the rule, more the rule than the exception. And we are all junior people, but remember, people who are much more experienced, who are published hundreds of papers, they also get rejection. In fact, they expect rejection. So don't get disheartened, don't get demotivated. This is the first principle. Anybody who has published in this group, you ask them, and they'll say, "Yeah, I got a rejection second time, third time, etc." Now, second thing, I believe these days, especially after the evolution of the online journals, I think anything seriously written will ultimately get published. I'm not joking. You write trash, you get some comments, you revise it once, twice, thrice, it becomes a much better thing. So anything which is written, this kind of matter will get published because there are so many places where you can publish it. Now, third, don't get disheartened because uh, uh, try till you succeed. That is, of course, we all know about it. But the way you must look at it is that has the in fact, responsible editors write to referees. You may reject the paper, but give some good comments so that they can. At least I do referee work. In fact, I have now two papers which are pending. I'm getting nasty letters from the editor because the deadline is over. Because this is all pro bono work. Because out of your interest, you do it. But good editors always say, you reject, all right, no problem. But don't be nasty to the author, be kind to the author and give some constructive comments, which I try to do. So, if they have rejected, but with a referee comment, take all referee comments seriously. And then, of course, revise the paper. You keep it in the cold storage for some time, put it in the back burner. You said you got disheartened. Now you're waiting to get remotivated, etc. But every time you get remotivated, you will get new ideas. You know how to, anything which is written again and again uh, becomes a much better product. And then you think you shortlist a list of maybe half a dozen journals, looking at their publication, what kind of it. In fact, these days there are lots of journals. There are Indian journals. In fact, the one which I guided for as part of this program, Brigadier, who presented last week or the before last week. I mean, it went, of course, industrial psychiatry. Now, you might wonder why, what is so relevant if a paper on, and that was his topic was about how to uh, find your topic for MD dissertation. It is published. Now, what happens is once it is published, nobody may ever read industrial psychiatry journal. Of course, it is online. But you can get the PDF of the paper, you can circulate it, send it to people, send it to your students, send it to the group. So people who didn't even know that there is a journal called Indian Journal of Industrial Psychiatry will suddenly see your paper. Now, don't ever go by the impact factor. You know how all these things occur. Each paper has to be read by its own merit. I already told you about the BMC medical education paper. I don't know whether many people have read that paper in India. It is called self-directed learning in Indian medical graduates. I don't know, but it is done in Vellore. So if
Sir,
you
here,
somehow get
this
it,
is the paper. This is the one
probably it is
by
a
Prem
CMC
Kumar.
Vellore.
By Prem Kumar. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
I
okay.
I read. I quoted it
Yeah,
here in the presentation.
yeah. So you are a self-directed learner already. Anyway, so don't get disheartened. Please write it up. Shortlist
Yes, sir.
a group of journals. I'm not saying that the second journal will accept it. You may get second or even a third rejection, but don't give up. Get it wait
Okay.
till you publish. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll do that.
Valuable time, sir. We are sure that periodic interactions with you are sufficient to keep our SDL scores quite high to make us lifelong learners like you are. I thank our other colleagues who have joined from GMCI Psychiatry. Also, Dr. Rajshekar Baipeda, sir. Thank you so much for sparing your time on a Sunday, sir. As we come close to the end of our time, I would like to thank once again for the many efforts for the success of this program, Dr. Kiran for the neatly designed flyers, Dr. Kishore, Dr. Vinay, Dr. Ajay, Dr. Sujitkar, Dr. Dhirendra, and Dr. Pooja for the coordination. And this is the end of our valuable 60 minutes on this Sunday morning, and see you all in the next episode of this series. Thank you once again for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I'll
everybody.
work on the inputs, sir. I'll do it.
Sure. Wish you all the best.